Hey there, Toy Fans, D21 Beast Rob here. I just got back from a late shift at work, and it looks like some high-res images of the X-Men Wave of Legends have finally hit the internet, and I am super excited. So much so that despite the fact that it's almost 1 in the morning, I thought I have to do a video and kind of share my thoughts on these pre-release images. Now, first and foremost, before we get into some detail, if you guys want to pick up these Legends, I strongly recommend that you pre-order online and do not wait for these things to hit retail. Every one of these X-Men Legends is going to be 1 per case. It's going to be a case of 8 figures total, and you better believe each one's going to be impossibly hard to find. Now let's take a look at the high-res packaged image of all these figures. I think the boxes for these figures look absolutely incredible. I don't normally think of black and yellow for the X-Men. Usually it's blue and yellow or even just multicolored. But I suppose black and yellow is how the team originally started way back in the 1960s, so I appreciate the sort of color homage with the packaging on these new figures. It looks really sharp. Now, as you can see here, we do have a set of 8 figures, and I'm going to go ahead and share my thoughts on each one individually as the image here shows them listed off from left to right. And in case you're curious where these images came from, I personally got them from MarvelToyNews.com. They're probably on some other sites by now as well. Okay, so the first figure we're looking at is actually the Wolverine figure that was revealed sometime last week at the end of the week. This high-res photo actually looks pretty good. This does look like a brand new Wolverine body mold through and through. Even the head sculpt's new. And I gotta say, I actually really do like the body mold that's been used since way back in the Toy Biz days. It's had some modifications over the years, but as long as this Wolverine figure isn't standing right at 6 inches tall, which is frankly too tall for a Wolverine figure, I think this figure will have the power to win me over, but I'm not sold on him just yet. I really want to get this guy in my hands. But as you can see here, speaking of hands, he does have a set of interchangeable hands that are declawed, as well as the hands that have the claws fully extended. And in a faithful nod to Wolverine of the 1980s, or even the 90s animated series if you watched it, the claws do protrude from the back of the hand, not the top of the hand. And what I mean by that is you do have those 3 sort of outlets or nodules coming off the back of his hands in between his the joints for his knuckles, which is how his claws were originally drawn to actually protract from his hands. Also, I think it's kind of funny that the high-res image of the Juggernaut Build-A-Figure head actually has his eyes obstructed by the mask. I'm sure it won't be that bad, hopefully not that bad, once you have it actually placed on the figure and you can pose it around. But yeah, so far, nothing really to hate on about this figure. I just really want to get him in my hands and see how tall he is compared to the rest of the X-Men. Moving on to the next figure, we have the only one that does not come with a Juggernaut Build-A-Figure piece. We've got Deadpool. Now, initially, when this image was shown off at New York Toy Fair, or at least the original image of this figure, I wasn't sold. It was super photoshopped, and I didn't like the way that the feet looked. One of the problems I have with the X-Force Wolverine and even the Infinite Series Wolverine that I always feature in my videos is that his ankle articulation is a bit hindered by the sculpt design for the boots, and I'm worried that this Deadpool figure is going to have that same issue. Hopefully not. We'll have to wait till we have him in hand. Also, the right hand for this Deadpool figure has the pinky extended, which is kind of funny, but I also worry how that's going to interplay with his ability to hold his swords or his weapons. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But man, the accessories for this guy are amazing. We've got that interchangeable scarred Deadpool head, which I can't wait to try out on the figure. We've got a taco, which is awesome. We've got the bazooka that's got the boxing glove on the end of it. And then look at that. All of the accessories for this Deadpool figure are colored in silver plastic. Thank you, Hasbro, for not making these random, weird colored weapons. I understand why you do that. You don't want to promote violence, and, kids are ultimately picking these figures up at the end of the day, as well as adults. But I'm really happy to see that they've taken the kid gloves off with the accessories for this Deadpool figure. The knife even, silver with a black handle. As recently as the Scourge Marvel Legends figure, we've seen that done differently. So I'm glad Hasbro's listening to us, at least with this particular wave of figures. And I love that it looks like the pistols and the knife, at least, and the swords, of course, are going to be able to stow away on the Deadpool figure. Also, well, at least initially, it seemed a bit too bulky for me. I do feel like the Bucky Cat mold is growing on me for this Deadpool figure. Next up, we've got the Marvel Legends Rogue figure, and I'm having trouble actually pinpointing what exactly it is about this figure, but it does seem different from the one that was first unveiled to us last year. But that aside, this figure looks really awesome, and I'm hoping that we still get that metallic green paint as the figure has on its arms and legs there when the figure actually releases. I know Hasbro likes to gussy up the images, the high-res images of their figures. I'm going to be very disappointed if that's more of a flat green once we have it in hand, but right now in the high-res images, it looks really cool. And of course, the main body for this figure does appear to be a reuse of that black cat mold, or the mold that we saw with Miss Marvel. Really, a lot of the female figures that have been coming out lately. And I'm happy to see that used with Rogue. It makes a lot of sense for this character. But we do appear to have newly sculpted upper arms that feature the jacket wrinkles, so that's a nice touch. And while not pictured here, I do believe this Rogue is supposed to come with an ungloved hand. I'm not sure what that's supposed to look like, but I'm looking forward to seeing it attached to the figure. Next up, we've got Shadowcat, and of course, the costume she's sporting is definitely the all-new Shadowcat, or I guess the all-new X-Men version of Shadowcat, when she was the mentor for the young mutants who came from the past. It's very classic, and it's still similar enough, I suppose, to Joss Whedon's run on Astonishing X-Men that you could still kind of fudge her in with your Astonishing Wolverine and Astonishing Cyclops if you really wanted to. I like that her hair is actually in a ponytail. I didn't like that the Shadowcat figure we got back in the Toy Biz days didn't have a ponytail. I thought that was somewhat uncharacteristic for the character, at least at that point in her life. It looks like Lockheed's just going to be a static figure. I hope he's just somewhat pliable so we can actually stick him on her shoulder or something. Not sure how they're going to work that out. The Onslaught head actually doesn't impress me that much. It looks, I don't know, just rather plain, I suppose, and the white eyes seem a little too beady for me. Hoping that looks a little better once we have it in our hands. Also, I think it's a nice touch that the belt for the Shadowcat figure is actually sort of two separate pieces, I guess, that make up the actual belt for the character. They could have just done that differently and painted a black line, but it does appear to be a solid X emblem in the center, and then actually a set of parallel bars wrapping around her waist, which is how it looks in the comics. And that body mold does appear to be new. It looks like it might even be the same one being used on the new Silk Marvel Legends figure, so curious to see how that stacks up to the other female body molds once we have it in hand. And next we've got Cable, and I'm seeing a lot of people not liking this figure online, but I think he looks great. He seems to reuse some pieces from the Nuke figure that just came out. He's got that gun that we saw many times now. With previous Marvel Legends figures, Forge came with it, Hope came with it. It's the gun in his right hand. Honestly, I pose Hope Summers' gun with my Toy Biz Cable figure, so I'm glad that this Cable figure just comes with it anyway. I don't recognize the gun in his left hand. I'm not sure if that's new. And then he does have what appears to be a belt of bullets, which I know for sure doesn't fit in the gun in his right hand. Maybe it somehow attaches to the one on his left hand. I guess we'll have to see. I'm not crazy that they've separated the torso from the hips for the Juggernaut Build-A-Figure piece. Don't think that was very necessary, but I guess they're just trying to give you a reason to pick up every figure in the wave. But this figure does look really cool. And as I've stated in previous videos, I like that they've gone with the sort of modern Cable look. The one that we saw in the Deadpool video game from Activision a couple years ago, and of course, this version of Cable originally came from the X-Sanction Avengers storyline. Next up, we got a figure that I'm honestly just a little bit let down by. Iceman overall looks fine. Looks like he's only going to have paint applications on his eyes. Hope they do a little bit of airbrushing on the figure. But he doesn't have any ice effects. We didn't get any with Blizzard when he came out. It's just really strange to me that Hasbro wouldn't come up with some sort of generic ice effect that they could use for all of their ice-wielding characters whenever they decided to make one. Hopefully they don't let us down in the future. If another ice character comes out, we'll get ice effects with them that we can then retroactively use with our Iceman. But I do feel like it was a bit of a missed opportunity. Despite all the accessories we're getting with the Deadpool figure, Iceman comes with absolutely nothing. But outside of that, I do think the Spider-Man body mold is great for this figure. I like the ice spikes coming off of his back. The head sculpt looks nice, so definitely excited to have that guy in my collection. I've had the Toy Biz Iceman for many, many years, and as I stated in my recent collection video, it broke almost as soon as I got him out of the package, so I'm hoping this figure holds up a little better. Second to last here, we've got the new Phoenix figure. Now, I'm a little puzzled by this Phoenix figure. She seems to be reusing the hair sculpt from the Jim Lee era Jean Grey that we got back in the Rocket Raccoon wave, and that was a fine hair piece, but it's been a few years, and I don't know that they needed to use it again on this figure, and frankly, it would have just been nice to see something different used. But we do appear to have a brand new upper torso mold. I don't recognize it from anything that I've got in my collection. Maybe it came with the Medusa Legend, I'm not sure. I didn't have that box set. Then you look at the feet, she's got heels. Now, I think in the comics she did actually have heels on her costume, but I really would have preferred that she had flat feet so it wouldn't be such a chore to stand this figure up. But I've got the Toy Biz Phoenix figure, so I'll probably be using the Phoenix base that came with that figure, posing with this Jean Grey, so it may not be a big issue in the end, but really I would have preferred flat feet, comic accurate or not. Lastly, we come to Havok, who has those amazing blast effects for his hands. He does appear to have a new head sculpt, which I really like, but the rest of him is just deco, which is kind of a disappointment. I like the look of the actual sort of solar disc on his chest, the belt going around his waist, as I've stated in previous videos. I wish they would have done an actual sort of 3D molded piece that they put on the figure, because that's how the costume actually looks. I wish we got a little bit of 3D detail on the legs. I don't like that that's just decoed on as well. We can't really see his wrist very well in this image, but I'm hoping he's at least got some sort of straps around the wrist, because that would be consistent with his Unity Squad costume. I'm a big fan of Havok from the comics, and I'm a little bit lukewarm on this Marvel Legends figure, but I'm still really excited to get him. I'll be glad to finally switch out the 70s Havok figure in my Marvel Legends display with this one. Now, I guess I should also mention that we did actually get a high-res version of Juggernaut a couple of days ago, the Build-A-Figure. And honestly, he looks pretty cool. He looks less bulky than the Marvel Select version of the figure, which I actually really like. I know a lot of Marvel Legends collectors out there like to throw in the Select Juggernaut with their displays, but I actually think that has more to do with the availability of a Marvel Legends Juggernaut figure versus how easy it is to get the Select these days. Now, don't get me wrong, the Select figure has some great sculpting, but posability-wise, he's pretty worthless. And now that we're getting a new Juggernaut figure that seems to be a redone version of the Rhino Build-A-Figure that we got from last year's Spider-Man wave of Marvel Legends, this is going to be a Juggernaut that we can stand on one foot in a charging pose, and he's got some better articulation than we saw with the Select version of the figure. I think he's going to be a great complement to our Marvel Legends displays, and I'm excited to check this guy out. I do wish we had the ability to remove the helmet like we did on the old Toy Biz version, but the proportions on that figure were so weird. I'm actually really looking forward to finally having a better version of Juggernaut in my display. So there you have it, guys. There's my thoughts on all the figures coming out. I think if I had to pick my favorite one of the set that we've looked at so far, and granted I've been nitpicking a little bit, but I think I'm super excited for the Rogue figure. I'm also really looking forward to Shadowcat and Deadpool. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm probably going to really love all of these things. But right now, especially with Rogue and Shadowcat, those are the ones I don't have a version of currently, and the ones that I can't wait to be able to throw into my Marvel Legends display. Let me know which figure you're most excited for, and I'll see you next time.